Hello and welcome to a Millfield Live webinar. We are delighted to be talking today from the middle of Somerset, in the middle of the day, 12 noon here in the UK, to hopefully meet some of our international families who are based perhaps to the east or to the west on your different time zones. We've been doing webinars all week, and it's been a pleasure to have guests ranging from academic through to sporting, through to co-curricular. And our focus today is to have some conversations with some of our international students and to take questions that you may have live, which you can enter in our chat box just below on the banner through to the YouTube page, or you can enter them via email, where our wonderful head of marketing, Miss Liz Webb, is there waiting to receive them, and she'll post them in our comments box for us here. So with no further ado, I'm going to introduce the panel today, and we've got a real variety. In fact, they've all been on a bit of a trip this morning because we've had the ultimate school trip going on. And I feel like we'll follow on from that because we've got people coming from around the world. But we'll start from a bit closer to home. And first of all, introduce my colleague, Miss Natalie Cheers. Hello, Miss Cheers. How are you?
Hi, nice to be here today. Yes, I'm very good, thank you. I'm in sunny Somerset. Yeah.
You're quite close, aren't you? You're not based so far away, but tell us a little bit about yourself.
Okay, so I'm new to Millfield this year. I'm the head of EAL, and I also run the International Student Association. So it's my fourth EAL department in a UK boarding schools, but I've also worked in Beijing and Lisbon and France and different places around the world as well, and also for UK universities helping international students.
Thank you very much, Miss Cheers. I'm going to also bring in now Valentina, who is one of your students. You know Valentina, don't you? And yes, Valentina, if you'd like to tell us where you are in the world right now.
Thank you, sir. Hi, everyone. I'm Valentina. I've just joined the school this year, and I'm in the low 6. I take English literature, French and drama, and I'm a boarder, and I live in Butley along with Sonia, who you'll meet next. I'm currently staying in London, but I'm originally from Hong Kong.
Thank you very much indeed, Valentina. Thank you very much. And we're delighted to also have Sonia, who you just mentioned, who's your chum and unusual housemate. But Sonia, you're not in the UK, are you? Where are you?
Hello, sir. I'm in St. Petersburg at the moment, in Russia. So I joined Millfield this year, and this is my first year being a boarding student. I do chemistry, math, and biology, and it's a pleasure for me to join Butley House with Valentina. I also do equestrian sport with my own horse, and I play tennis.
Thank you very much, Valentina. Lovely to see you. And we're joined by Dash as well. Hi, Dash. How are you?
Hi, I'm good, thanks. Yeah.
Where are you at the moment, Dash?
So I'm in Nairobi, Kenya right now. Yeah.
And tell us a bit about yourself, Dash.
So I've been at Millfield since year 7. So this is my 5th year now. I live between Nairobi, Kenya and Mumbai, India. I'm currently doing my GCSEs. So I'm studying economics, geography, product design, and Spanish, and then as well the required subjects, so maths, sciences, and English. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Dash. I hope the weather's nice in Nairobi at the moment.
Yeah, it's great.
There you are. You can see the enthusiasm they're going through. So, Amelia, you've also joined us. Hi, Amelia. Now, you are not from Cyprus. You're there at the moment, aren't you? Tell us why you're in Cyprus, Amelia.
Hi, I'm Amelia. I'm in year 10. I joined Millfield in year 9. I'm currently in Cyprus because I was in South Africa, and I'm just trying to make my way back to the UK. I'm a boarder, and I'm in Martin's house. I'm currently doing geography, music, drama, and Chinese. I normally live in Hong Kong, and I'm British and South African. I play tennis, netball, and I swim. I play the harp and guitar, and I sing.
Fantastic. Thank you very much, Mila. I know you've had quite an interesting journey of where you're based at the moment. So this is our panel, and we're going to hear more from them throughout the webinar. And if you have any questions you'd like to ask, we really want to have the input from these guys, because they'll tell you about what they love about Millfield and what they're missing about Millfield, as they really are scattered a little bit around the world. But to start with, what I'd like to do is show a short film which just gives an update about what the campus looks like, and for those of you who are not so familiar with Millfield, what it would normally seem. So let's see if this will work for us now. Well, we got there eventually. There was a little bit of jumpiness in there, but I hope you got the sense of all the things that maybe some of our students are missing about actually not being at Millfield at the moment. And it's obviously been a very unusual time for all of our students, and particularly for our international students. And we as a school obviously have a long history and tradition of having students from around the world, and it's something we're very proud of. It's something we enjoy. It makes the school very special. So what we're going to start off with is, in fact, our extra panelist I didn't introduce earlier, which is the headmaster, Mr. Gavin Horgan. And I'm going to ask him first if he'd like to give an update about the state of the nation, the state of the school, his thoughts as well on how we can best and have supported our international students. And he'll be with us throughout the whole of the webinar as well, in order to take any questions you have, any points. So, Mr. Horgan, at this stage, can I bring you on? And would you like to tell us your thoughts? And it's probably quite nice, isn't it, seeing all our students in school, happy, smiling. That's what we'll have this weekend, won't we?
Yes, it is. So the vast majority of our students are coming back on Sunday, ready for a start on Monday. Some of our international students are going to wait until the start of next term. We brought that forward by a week to the 12th of April so that we have as much time as possible face-to-face on the campus. And we anticipate that everyone will be back by then. And we've got about 500 students that travel from abroad. And we think that about half will be back on Sunday, and the remainder will be back at the start of next term. It's really tough for families at the moment, and it's especially tough for our international families. And I've been very respectful and wowed really by the way in which they've bought into remote learning, because if you're in China, then those lessons happen really quite late in the evening, and if you're in America, then they're really quite early in the morning. And of course, we've recorded all the lessons and they're available for the students to catch up on, and some of them have done that, but many of them have chosen to be in the lessons live. And I suspect that's because we are all missing human contact, and we're all missing those opportunities to be with friends and to be with classmates. So it's a real positive for me that we are beginning to get normal life back again. Also, that we had an update yesterday, didn't we? Which is that students traveling from red list countries will also now be able to quarantine at Millfield rather than having to quarantine in some airport hotel. And I think that's really important for the children's mental health. We know them. We are their home away from home, and it is therefore safest and best if they're with us here at Millfield, and we can support them in that process. So it has been a tough time. It's been an especially tough time for international families. I'm a massive respecter of what they do to send their children to Millfield. I'm very grateful for that. But with children from over 70 different nationalities at the school, it is part of our DNA. We are deliberately international. We have been since we were founded in 1935. And that's something that we seek to celebrate. And therefore, it's wonderful that we've got a number of students with us from all over the world today. And if you want to ask me any questions, by all means do. But let's hand back to James so that we can ask the students some questions. James, over to you. You're mute, I think, still, James. Sorry.
I was indeed. There we go. Thank you very much, Gavin. And it's a great introduction. And we will perhaps come into that, because I think the experience obviously has been challenging at times for my students, and how they've coped in this period, but also what they're looking forward to in getting back to Millfield. And one of the questions we've had already that's come in has related to how we do integration with all of our students that come from around the world. So we might come back to that as a theme when we chat to them. But what I'd like to do is start off perhaps and ask Valentina. Maybe Valentina, you could perhaps give us your thoughts. I mean, I know you're based in UK still at the moment. You haven't been able to go back to Hong Kong, but I mean, how's the sort of teaching experience been for you? Have you managed to keep in touch with people and your teachers over this period?
I mean, obviously, online learning is quite difficult at times. I do have a problem with procrastination, and that's not good. But I think the teachers do what they can to make this learning experience, you know, as close to actual learning as possible. I'm really looking forward to going back to school. I'm actually going back tomorrow, which is really exciting to see all my friends. And karate, I do karate, and we actually have online lessons, but it doesn't compare to the real life lessons.
I know that Sonia is also in your tutor group, isn't she? So she's somebody that you normally see quite a bit. And when we were just getting ready to come on earlier, you were like, oh, hello, hi. I haven't seen each other for a while. And I know that, Sonia, you're a bit jealous, aren't you, the fact that Valentina will be coming back next week. You'll be missing not starting then.
Yeah, I'm very jealous. I'm really looking forward to going back to Millfield, and unfortunately I won't be able to return till April. So I'm very jealous of Valentina that she's coming back tomorrow. I really miss Millfield atmosphere. I miss my friends, students, and teachers.
Have you been managing your lessons okay in the meantime? And I mean, it's not the same. I mean, online karate won't be the same as real karate. And obviously you're a rider, aren't you? So have you been able to keep in touch, though, with your activities and everything else?
Unfortunately, talking about riding, I was not able to ride remotely, but I was doing some riding while I was at home, and I was keeping in touch with my equestrian coach about theory, biomechanics of a horse, and all the theoretical important moments for riders.
Okay, brilliant. And we might come in shortly to talk about how you do your English as well, because I know Miss Cheers is someone who sees you for classes as well. So we might well bring you in for that at this stage too. I'm just going to ask Dash to stream as well at this point as well, and ask him how it's been. I mean, Sonia, you're in St. Petersburg. Dash, you're in Nairobi. Pleased to see the internet's looking okay. How have your online lessons been coming from Nairobi? How have you found that?
Yeah, it's been quite good, to be honest. I think the teachers have done really well to make the experiences like realistic as possible. I mean, there are difficulties with Wi-Fi connection and things like that, but besides that, it's been quite good.
I know. I'm holding my breath to hope that your Wi-Fi will hold. It's looking good so far. In fact, all of you are amazing. In fact, probably better than Miss Cheers, who's down the road in Butley. So it's remarkable, isn't it, with the teaching now going on with that. Dash, what interest do you have at school? Have you been able to keep up with anything particularly with clubs? It's not the same, but I mean, we were doing an ultimate school trip earlier. How did you find that?
Yeah, that was good. I was watching the Japan sort of live thing, which is good. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I'm going to bring Amelia in at this stage as well, because I know she's in Cyprus. Were you in Japan for the trip earlier, Amelia, or were you in Australia?
I was at Japan. So.
You've both seen Mr. Horgan talking about that. Can you just explain to our viewers who'll be saying, what do you mean you were in Japan? Can you explain what was happening, Amelia?
Well, basically, as we are not allowed to travel in the UK, the school set up as we can go to certain countries. So I think it was Australia, Japan, Italy, and Iceland, and you can choose 2 of them. So I chose Japan, and I'm going to go to Iceland later today. And basically, we just explored the culture of Japan, and we got to see them do calligraphy and make sushi. That was really interesting.
And did you get involved in the live vote? Because you could vote, couldn't you? Everybody was watching. I had over 1,000, 1,500, I think, at one point. Can you explain how that worked as well?
Well, there was a code on the screen, and I think we voted for which calligraphy we wanted to do. And yeah, all of us could do it on our phones or iPads, and it would show on the screen. Yeah.
Which one did you vote for?
I voted for a dream.
Okay, and it won. You were there. So we're trying to make this realistic. Obviously, you weren't physically into Japan. We weren't going to Australia. We've got Iceland and Italy this afternoon. But these are all ways in which we're trying to bring people together, all using technology in different ways. And I hope for you guys, this has been an experience which has been one we won't repeat. We're hopefully going to be in school and from now on, and we'll have you all here. We're looking forward to seeing you. And we're going to come back and ask about your experiences of making friends, settling in, and how you balance your life at school. So we'll leave the lockdown part in a moment. But what I'm going to do now is bring in Miss Cheers, because I'm going to ask her about her thoughts about teaching and how she goes about that with our students, particularly those for whom perhaps English is a second language. So, Ms. Cheers, if you'd like to just come on with me now, and perhaps you could talk a bit about how you see the role for those we support for students who are a second language. Of our 450 international students, around about 250 of those are not British, about 250 are UK based who are living overseas, like in Amelia. And some obviously have English as a second language. So do you want to talk through your program and philosophy of what you bring to Millfield and the EAL world?
Okay, perfect. Thank you. Yes, so we have different courses for our students for whom English is an additional language. Now, we do run some of the Cambridge Suite exams that people might be familiar with watching this. So we're talking things like PET, CET, FCE and CAE. So Valentina's doing the CAE course at the moment, which is Cambridge Advanced. So it's the equivalent, a pass rate is equivalent of an IELTS 7, which is very high. So university entrance and beyond. So our students work really, really hard. And in fact, Valentina is going to go on to do proficiency next year, which is exceptional. So we have quite a range of courses, and we support students from year 9. Some of them may have different needs, different requirements. So we do subject support around that too, where we look at the language of the subject and we look at the specific needs for the students as well. So it's really tailored to what the students in front of us require in the subject support lessons. But alongside that, we have academic English courses that will go through the different common framework levels. For our sixth formers, the most important exam for visa requirements and language requirements for universities, generally speaking, now it's accepted that it's IELTS. So we start off in the lower 6, we get that sorted, and then hopefully then they have the option of having more time if that's what they need for their subjects, or going on to do these extra courses like Cambridge Advanced and Proficiency. So there's a range of different things we can do to help students, and they can choose between as well the IGCSE in year 10 and 11 and doing the first language GCSE, so depending on their needs.
Thank you very much, Natia. It's a great overview. What we might do, should we bring in Valentina and Sonia now? Because I'd like to ask them about their experiences of learning and giving support, both of whom your English is good. I mean, we realise that. And you know, exactly, and it's all down to you, Ms. Cheers. But I mean, how have you found the sort of help that you've had from Ms. Cheers? Valentina, how have you benefited from that? I mean, obviously, your English, is of a good level, but we're looking to try and maximise, aren't you, of that? Valentina, what's your experiences?
So we're actually in the class of just 3 people, which makes it so much better because Ms. Cheers, she's a wonderful, supportive teacher, and I'm not just saying that because she can hear me right now. I think, yeah, it's been a really nice experience getting to study the English language in the deeper level. And yeah, it's been good so far.
Well done. Lovely answer. There you go. And Sonia, no pressure. But again, how have you found, I mean, your previous school, Sonia, were your lessons in English or were they in Russian?
In my previous school, all the lessons went in Russian language, of course, because
So this
it
would
was a
be,
school in Russia.
yeah, this would be a challenge. How have you found the teaching? Again, you can praise Miss Cheers. We'll take that as read. But how have you found the experience as a second language student?
So English language is not my first language, and I think that Miss Cheers is the most patient and the most kind teacher I've ever met. It's a pleasure for me to work with Miss Cheers as she's taking me through all the problems of English. And currently we're preparing for IELTS exam. And at the beginning of my United Kingdom journey, I thought that IELTS exam is going to be one of my hardest exams in this school. But right now I'm ready to pass this exam and I'm really looking forward to it.
Fantastic answer. We've got a question that's come in on the email. Thank you for the ones that have come in already. What happens if a student is struggling with comprehension in a particular subject? Miss Cheers, do you like to answer that one with input from Valentina and Sonia?
Yeah, completely. So we have an EL referral system. So the subject teacher, there's a process, but also informally teachers speak to me, email me, and let me know how things are going. So if a student was borderline, say, and they went to do first language English, then we would monitor them and we'd be in constant communication and we try to support as best we could in that way. If it's, say, biology and they're struggling with technical terms, then we can do things in our subject support lessons. And we also do things off timetables. So students come and see us and the different other members of the department as well during lunchtimes and breaks. And we also work with the teacher to support them with something called content and language integrated learning. So it isn't just about the students getting that knowledge, but it's also we're training all the teachers in the school, because every teacher is a teacher of international students, where they're all kind of a language teacher at the same time. So they're in charge of their own subject literacy, and we support them with a functional language as well. So sometimes this means helping them to see which language is important in accessing the course. Sometimes it's looking at the glue of language and how the functional words, for example, in science, the passive form is used quite a lot. And teachers might not be aware of the difficulties, or if the textbook is written with lots of idiomatic expressions and cultural references as well, trying to find examples that use the culture of the students to try and include them in that way, and trying to break things down where the complexity isn't necessary, it's the information that's important. So there's lots of strategies we use, and it's an ongoing process as well. But there's a clear referral system for students who need significant extra support, but there's also ways we support teachers, and kind of informally as well, students come and see us too.
Thank you, brilliant. And Sonia, if you've had comprehension issues, do you then chat to Ms. Cheers about it? Do you talk to your teacher about it? How have you gone about that sort of aspect?
Talking about me, I have not faced the comprehension questions, but I know that Ms. Cheers is always ready to help me and to help each student in the class. And we're starting in the class of 4 people, and I find it pretty beneficial for me because I can achieve patience. I can achieve like attention for the whole lesson. So I think it's pretty beneficial.
Brilliant. Thank you very much, Sonia. That's great news. We'll come back to Ms. Cheers and get more insight, and particularly Valentina and Sonia, about how they found settling in, because one of the questions we've had is about that, and we'll talk to all the students. But one I'd like to ask Dash and Amelia about is about how they balance their academics and sports and how things are prioritised. So Amelia, I'm going to bring you in on this one here, and we'll also bring in Dash as well. For your sort of thoughts about that. Amelia, what interests do you have outside the academics, and how do you go about trying to balance that at school?
Well, the interests that I have outside of academics is I like to play tennis and I swim, and I also play netball. I also do music as well. And it's quite balanced actually, because in the mornings we have lessons, and at lunchtime we can do sport or music, and then in evenings late we have prep. So sometimes on Wednesdays and Saturdays you have half day, so you have to do swimming or netball, tennis, and you can also do music as well. So you can balance studying and sport and music as well, different days of the week.
Brilliant. I know you're quite a busy person, aren't you? Dash, how do you find the balance between your interests and to sort of get around the school in a busy place? How have you found managing that? Are you there, Dash?
Yeah, sorry, I had some connection problems. Yeah, I find that it's quite easy to balance everything because of time. The half days on Wednesdays and Saturdays give you a lot of extra time for sports, as well as time right after school, which is also really good. And also sometimes there's space in the evenings after your prep time. So once you finish all your school-related work, you have time as well to have any other activities or sports.
Thank you very much, guys. And can I just ask both of you about joining the school? Because you joined when you were in year 9. In fact, well, Dash, even earlier, because you came up from our prep school as well. But Amelia, just starting with you, perhaps when you were joining in year 9, how did you? It seems a while back now for you, doesn't it? Probably. But do you want to talk about how that was and settling in at that age, and how was the whole experience coming as an international student?
Well,
Yeah. So as you said.
Oh, sorry.
No, you go ahead, Amelia. You go.
Oh, okay. Starting in year 9, my parents dropped me off at school. So the first time that I had to travel was I had to travel back to Hong Kong by myself, which is quite scary. But starting in year 9, there was lots of people who were new as well, and some people who came from the prep school. So it wasn't like I was the only one in the house that was new. A lot of people were new. And everyone was so kind, and we all helped each other, and our house mistress, Miss Moore, is really nice and welcoming to all of us.
It seems, I was going to say, yeah, exactly. You know, it can be a while ago. And Dash, you joined. What age did you start boarding at?
So I joined in year 7, so I think I was around maybe 12 or 11 years old when I started. Yeah.
And how did you find boarding at that age?
It was quite difficult to adjust at first, but it was a really short period of adjustment. So within really a couple of weeks, you get quite adjusted to how it is. Yeah.
And if you've been traveling back and forward ever since, you commute between, Kenya and India and just different holidays backwards and forwards, you're quite an international jet setter nowadays.
Yeah.
In an un-COVID world, in terms of traveling. I know I see you and you also had your brother with you as well. Is that a good thing to have a sibling at school with you?
Yeah, it's very good to have siblings, especially when you travel. You have someone to travel back home with.
Yeah, it's not obligatory. You don't have to, but it is obviously useful if you do. It may be something that's good to have. Great. I'm just going to go up to the 6th form, and then I'm going to go back to ask the headmaster's perspective about how we also, the work we do in inducting and settling students in. But I'd just like to add Sonia and Valentina at this stage and ask you guys, how was the experience joining the lower 6th? You were both new this year. We have about 130 new students joining the lower 6th. It's a major age for us to do so. You seem to have made some friends.
Yeah.
Let's go to Valentina first.
I think it was really easy for me to make friends because in Butley it was just a house of around 30 girls, all from the lower 6. So everyone was just trying to make friends. So it was much easier. And yeah, we all just got along. We had a barbecue and it was just good fun. So yeah, it's really easy for me personally.
And Sonia, how about for you?
I've met a lot of new people since September, and I've joined Millfield this year. So I've met a lot of new friends, and our house mistress, Miss Watamba, she was really welcoming for us, and I share house with Valentina. So it was a lovely time in September, having a barbecue and just socializing events. I really miss this time.
And if there was something you were going to say back to your self a year ago, perhaps when you're thinking about joining the school, and there was one piece of advice or you were sort of thinking about or a worry or a concern, what would you say back to yourself? Valentina, if there's one thing you'd have said back to yourself then?
Yeah, just stop worrying. I was almost crying because I was thinking how like I wouldn't be able to make friends. And well, when I came here, it was just it was like I was homesick for the first day, and then I just completely forgot about Hong Kong. And I would go from calling my parents like twice a day to calling them like once a week. I don't know if that's reassuring for parents to hear that, but that's just my personal experience, because there's just so much to offer and you didn't really get too much free time to miss home. It was, yeah.
Well, that's good news in one way when you know you're not being here every night, and I'm sure you value going home. Sonia, how is it for you in terms of what advice would you give yourself, the 2020 version of Sonia? What would you say?
I would say do not be afraid, because when I just joined Milford, I thought that it's going to be a problem for me to find friends, to find like close friends, good attitude with teachers, and the reputation. I thought that it would be really hard for me to begin, but in fact, I met really supportive people. I was surrounded by lovely teachers, lovely friends, and they helped me to settle in. So I was really afraid in September 2020 to come to Milford, but I just realized that it was the best decision with regards to my education process.
Thank you very much, both of you. You've answered that extremely well. Mr. Horgan, is this a good time, perhaps, just to get your take and to tell a bit about what we as a school do in our settling students in, welcoming them, and your philosophy yourself about all of those aspects? You've worked and lived overseas a fair bit as well, haven't you? So you know what it's like.
I do indeed. I just thought it was lovely to listen to Valentina and Sonia's responses there. Valentina's so sort of open. I completely get what you mean, Valentina. I'm not sure if it is a good sales pitch to say, don't worry, your children will stop contacting you. But I think it's meant in the best of senses, which is that confidence develops very, very quickly at Millfield. And I think good induction comes as a result of two things. Firstly, as a result of structure, and secondly, as a result of culture. So we need to put a structure in place, which is around the child. I'll come back to that in a second. And there needs to be a culture which cares deeply about the needs of every individual child. So the children have mentioned words like Butley and Martins and things like this. This is their boarding house, and that is the core of the child's life at school. And it should be a home, and the HSM, the house parent, if you like, is someone that they should feel able to confide in. Of course, they're a teacher, and of course, they are inevitably an authority figure in their way, but they should feel able to confide in their HSM and in their tutor. And of course, in people like Miss Cheers. It was really lovely, I think. Was it Sonia that said, it is a pleasure to work for Miss Cheers? That's someone who is really keen to do the right thing by their teacher. And that suggests a relationship of trust, which is what matters to me. So the house is at the center of the child's life. And then the great busyness of Millfield is very important. If you go back to the start when they were introducing themselves, we don't tell them what they have to say, and yet they all seem to reel off this enormous long list of the things that they study and the things that they do and the activities that they're involved in. And people sometimes worry, don't they, about the scale of Millfield. So to those two who joined us in the lower sixth, they're joining a year group of about 300. But actually, my view is that our scale is the reason that children feel known and loved, because if we have that scale, it means that we have lots of resources, i.e. teachers and other key staff, that we can deploy around the child. In other words, class sizes are small, and we have lots of staff living on site and living connected to boarding houses that the students can access. But also that scale allows choice. So I would hope that within Sonia's riding community, she has a group of friends. And within her particular subjects, she has a group of friends. And she finds people who are at her level and who are like-minded and who challenge her and who push her, and networks that she builds up for the rest of her life. And that is very much true of people who come to Millfield. They build networks that are global and that they can rely on for the rest of their life. So Induction comes through culture and through structure, and through having staff who fundamentally care about the children that they're working with and that they're working alongside. But it's been really lovely for me to hear the different students' responses. Thank you, James.
Thank you, Gavin. I'm going to bring on Natalie at this stage here, is because I think it's a timely, exactly everything you just said there, Mr. Horgan, about staff and their support. But also, Natalie, you have a role which is a little bit wider than just EAL. You like to look after the whole aspect of supporting international students. I think probably between you, Mr. Horgan, and myself, we're probably international champions. In the real world, normal times, I travel a reasonable bit. I love seeing our students internationally. I mean, I was present in Hong Kong when Valentina was meeting us. Mr. Horgan interviewed Valentina in Hong Kong with me at that time as well. So we very much know the journey. We understand what it's like when you've had to pack your suitcase and get on the plane and travel all the way over here, then arrive and get off at the airport and get a taxi all the way down to Millfield. You know, we realise that journey. So and I know you understand that very much, having worked internationally yourself. But perhaps you want to talk a bit about the ways in which the International Society might help bring our students together.
Yeah, well, we've actually developed the International Association a bit this year, because it's always been somewhere where international students can kind of get together. There's reps from each boarding house, so they can bring things back into the boarding house. But we're actually trying to mark more of the dates on the international calendar, and we're asking the students which ones are important, and they're leading this. I think it's really important that we don't dictate what it means to be international at Millfield, and we actually let that be informed by the students on what's important to them. So that's already started. In fact, Valentina's done something for Chinese New Year quite recently, and we all got involved trying to say, I think quite badly, phrases in both English and in Mandarin, but you know, we tried, and we've had performances and things like this too. When it's a non-COVID world, there are more events that we can take part in, but we're just still trying to, we've got a team together and we're trying to mark dates in different ways. But we've got lots of things in the pipeline for next year. For example, we're going to have a global citizenship element to things that go on in the sixth form, and more intercultural communication and recognition of the fact that we are a kind of global community here. We're very much into things that are happening locally, but can we use the word local? We're also aware of that really special thing of having all these different nationalities together with no real dominant nationality, and learning from each other and sharing our experiences. So it isn't, I think one of the questions came up before about integration, and it's something that we don't have to explicitly focus on in that way, because naturally we've talked about students finding their groups, their networks. That happens so organically. So really, we do kind of events where people have got a chance to speak their home languages together and to meet other people who've had the same experience traveling and coming to a new country. People are always there to support them. But also here, because of the boarding network and everything like this, activities naturally mean that people make friends with people with the same interests, and nationality doesn't really come into it in that way. It's just an extra flavour.
What a great summary. Thank you so much. Cheers. I think I'd be cheered up being, oh, it's an awful gag. Sorry, I didn't mean that. I'd be cheered up being in your class. I can see it'd be a delight to have you be enthusiastic about all things international with us. What we're going to do is I'm going to ask a sort of final sort of takeaway question from everyone on the panel. So I'm going to give our students a little bit of warning that we've had great thoughts from Valentina and Sonia already about what advice to give their 2021 selves. And I'm going to ask them in a moment to think about what advice they would give to international students. And I'm going to particularly ask Valentina and Sonia what advice you would give in terms of packing. How much would you bring or not bring with you? So I know you gave great advice before, and I'm going to ask Amelia and Dash if they can give advice to their sort of self when they were younger, what they would do. But before we do that, we've got a question that comes up. What is the weather like in Somerset? And I might spring that on the headmaster, because I know he's someone who lives and enjoys everything Somerset. And the question was, by email, what is the weather like in Somerset? That's not easy to put in one word, is it, Mr. Horgan?
No, I can tell you what it is at the minute. I can look over there. It's bright. It's overcast. It's been relatively warm for the last couple of weeks. You probably need to think about context, don't you, when you ask someone that question? I'm originally from the west of Scotland, where it rains for about 2/3 of the year. So I think Somerset is relatively dry. But what it does have is beautiful summers. It's a very mild climate. We don't get much snow. It does rain quite a bit, I suppose. But the summers can be, last year, particularly sadly during lockdown, but from pretty much March onwards, it was beautifully warm and dry. And we do like our outdoor spaces at Millfield. We have wonderful grounds, and the children are able to enjoy those at our country houses and on the campus as well.
Thank you very much, Mr. Hawken. That's great. The other question we often get asked is about food, and I'll ask the students, maybe they can add that in their thoughts. So we're going to go round, and I'll ask everyone for the final comment, and I will come back through then also to Ms. Cheers for her final thoughts and advice for international students, and then the headmaster just to sum up. So I'll go in the same order we had last time, and I'll bring Valentina up first of all. So any thoughts on two aspects for you, Valentina? Thoughts on food. How is Millfield food, and any thoughts on packing? Any advice you would give to someone joining?
Millfield food. It's not too bad. I think that it can suit a lot of dietary requirements. You know, if you're gluten-free, vegan, vegetarian, there's always an option. You just got to ask the ladies there. And there's fruits, pudding, a lot of different choices. Like there's soup as well. So you're always going to before, after every meal. And packing, don't pack too much because you've got Amazon to send you stuff in, and I overpacked. So don't do that. Yeah.
What a great 21st century answer. I love that. You've got Amazon. There you go. Don't overpack too much. You can always have Amazon send. I know always, in fact, our head of Chinese talks about sticky rice. That's always the thing we always try and get. And I'm sure you find that, Valentina, but we do try and get the good food as best we can. Let's see what Sonia thinks, your good buddy as well. Has she got any strong views on the food and any thoughts on packing, Sonia?
Talking about food, Millfield food is nutritious. So it's really important for each Millfield student to keep the right balance of proteins, carbohydrates, and fats to maintain the motion, because Millfield provides a lot of sport activities. So Millfield food is actually delicious, and there are a variety of fruits, variety of diets, for example, vegan or lactose-free or gluten-free food. It's all reachable. And talking about packing, I overpacked as well. I remember the time when I had to change the room, and I had only one suitcase in my room, and I had a lot of things in my room. So right now my things are stored in plastic bags, so it was a mistake. But the main advice about packing, don't take too much clothes with you.
That does seem to be a fairly universal trend. I've had that said before. So I think great advice there. Thank you for those two. I'm going to add in Amelia at this stage next and say, Amelia, what advice would you give to your younger self if you're coming internationally? And it can be on food or packing if you like, or anything else you'd like to give as a top tip to someone joining, perhaps at year 9.
Well, I packed as well, and I packed shorts and t-shirt in the winter, which was not a good idea. But the advice I would give is call your family and friends from home, and I have photos, like print out photos, stuck on my wall in my room, and that really helps. I really like having photos. Yeah.
There is quite a difference, I notice, when I go around the girls' and boys' houses between those who have the boys don't have as much pictures. The girls are lovely decorated. It's a bit like Sonia's background there, where she gets everything up. So I know your room's lovely, Amelia. Dax, I know you've got a bit of sound troubles. Can you hear us? Could you give us your thoughts and advice for a new student, international student joining?
Yeah. So my advice would be to get involved with as many things as possible. It could be like sports matches, or we have like talks and events with like guest speakers that come into school. There'll be concerts and sort of academic challenges and stuff like that. And I think the more you involve yourself with all these things, the more friends you'll make, the easier you'll make friends, and the more familiar you'll become with the campus, the teachers, and all the facilities as well. So yeah.
Well, so well done. And it's amazing how we are coping with, Nairobi, St. Petersburg, Cyprus. We're around the world, aren't we? Miss Cheers is a lot closer. But Miss Cheers, any final thoughts from you that you give advice to any of our international students?
Yeah, I think all good advice so far. I definitely think that taking advantage of things that are on offer and trying something new, stepping a little bit out of your comfort zone. There might be a sport out there that you're brilliant at, that you'd enjoy, that you should just try. And again, yes, it helps you to make friends, but also maybe don't be afraid to ask for help. So there's lots of people who really want to help you and help support you in different ways. And just be aware of that. So be a little bit brave and try new things.
Well, great advice. Thank you to all of our panel. You've been absolutely fantastic, and for giving up time in the middle of the day, where I know you've got your trip this afternoon. You're going on to your next one. So enjoy that. It's going to be wonderful to see you all when we're back. Either for those of you who can make it, Valentina, we'll see you at the weekend, and for the rest of you at the start of the summer term. So thank you so much for all of you for giving up your time. And I'm going to go now to ask the headmaster if you'd like to just give us a final summing up.
Thank you very much, James. Firstly, on behalf of the viewers, Amelia, Valentina, Sonia and Daksh, thank you so much for your time. Thank you, Natalie. Thank you, James, for guiding us through it. As I said earlier, Millfield is determinedly international. We are the sort of school we are because of our international students. We celebrate them, we learn from them, and we are a better community because we all come together. I love that coining of a new word, glocal, from Natalie earlier. I'm going to hijack that and see if we can't make something of it. So thank you for that. I think it is a stressful time at the moment, but what we have seen is that children are desperate to get back to school. And that's really heartening. And we will work with families to make it happen however we need to. And we've had students with us throughout the entire lockdown, actually, and we will have students with us over holidays and in preparation for term. And I think we've learned that, haven't we, throughout these lockdowns, which is that we need to be far more flexible with the way we live our lives than perhaps we were before. But by coming to Millfield, you have the chance to discover your brilliance. And many people don't even know where that brilliance lies yet. And as Natalie was just saying, please get involved from the very, very start, because if you're just coming for sixth form, those 2 years will zip past before you've known it. Even if you're coming in year 9, opportunities will start to slip by unless you consciously get involved. And my last message actually to people is this, which is Millfield is looking for a positive impact from you. You have an opportunity to disrupt positively the way in which we educate. And you should think about what your legacy will be when you come to Millfield. But thank you for joining us today, and I look forward to welcoming you to the campus when it's next possible. Thank you, James.
Thank you very much for joining us today, everybody. I hope you've enjoyed this webinar. Wherever in the world you're watching it and at whatever time zone, we send you our very best wishes. We hope you're safe, you're well, and we look forward to seeing you at Millfield as soon as possible. So from all of us here, cheerio. Bye-bye.